Start with the notion that the polls really do indicate, the two that we've done with forum research really do indicate two key issues for people are jobs and the economy. And the other one is, well, we'll get to the other one after we get to the first one. So jobs and the economy, but what we're seeking is to understand in very real terms your plan to create jobs or help stimulate job growth in the city. So,
you know, and I think that I've been knocking on doors since March, and I can confirm that that's what the people are talking about. Certainly, jobs, economy are foremost on people's minds. I think the first thing we have to recognize is that governments, particularly local governments, don't create jobs. It's the small and medium-sized businesses that are 20,000 strong here in London that do that. I hear on a regular basis from small business owners that they have a difficult time navigating through the City Hall processes to open or to grow. Sometimes they're surprised and they're 7 or 8 months later than they thought that they would be. That's not okay. If a small or medium-sized business wants to open or grow, the city needs to be with them every step of the way. And what I mean by that is we don't bend rules, we don't break rules, but we get that individual to the end of the process as quickly as possible so they can get on with what it is that they need to do.
Do you have an example of what you might fix, if that's the right word?
Yeah, sure. The initial steps have been taken, and if you walk into the first floor of City Hall, you'll see a very different look than you saw even 6 months ago. And there's a service kiosk, and there are a number of services that are available right at the front of the City Hall that weren't available before. We need to do so much more than that. Kingston is an example of a community that has what's called a concierge, a single person who is the contact for that small business owner that helps them navigate through the processes. So, for example, if you're a mechanic and you want to knock down your existing building, open a new one, there are a number of offices that you have to make your way through. You have to get through engineering, you have to deal with traffic and transportation, you have to deal with planning, development services, and you're on your own at this point. And these are in multiple places, even different buildings, and it's a very difficult, confusing process that we shouldn't expect our small and medium-sized business owners to know. We should be there to help them, to walk them through those processes.
So you agree with this kind of standard line that we hear that City Hall is not business friendly? You say you agree with that point. You can see that point.
I hear it on a regular basis from small and medium-sized business owners. I've spoken with chiropractors, I've spoken with mechanics, I've spoken with hairstylists, I've spoken with optometrists who have all had this experience, and they've identified the issues. What we need to do is now address them. Part of that is introducing new systems, and the second piece of it is kind of a nuts and bolts piece, which is adding a customer service database management software to the toolbox, so that we know that when, Pat, if you want to open a business, what your first point of contact was and how long it's taking you to track through the system, how many contacts you've had within the system. That's an accountability piece as well.
So polling showed that the second issue, which is not far behind jobs, was, I guess we'll use the word dysfunction, the desire to end the political dysfunction that's been on council. I suppose that the Better Together slogan is a good slogan for your campaign, but why are you the guy, and why should people trust you to be the guy who can sort of build that bridge and end that kind of dysfunction?
Right. Even on this divided council, I have a proven track record of bringing council together. And I would say that what we've seen and what we've gone through as a community, and I've heard about this every day when I go door to door, is a council that was purposefully divided. And a council that was set up in a way that reflects what you see at the federal or provincial level with a partisan nature to the approach. So you've got the 8 votes, you can drive a small agenda through instead of a community agenda. It doesn't work at the community level. We've all experienced that, not just those members of council or those people that cover council, the entire community experienced that.
What's an example of your track record of bridging that divide?
Sure. I'll look to a couple of areas. One that I'm particularly proud of would be the Medical Innovation and Commercialization Fund. And this was a program, again, we talk about working with our key partners in the community. It turns out we do a fantastic job developing medical devices in this community, better than other areas. We needed to come up with $10 million to put on the table to kickstart the program. This is a partnership between Western, Lawson, Robarts, and the hospital foundations, as well as the city. And in the 2013 budget, I worked as hard as I possibly could, and I got a portion of a percent of the budget to be directed towards $1.1 million per year, effectively creating that $10 million fund that allowed us to put that on the table so Western could come forward with $20 million to match it. And now we approach our senior levels of government and ask them to match that. And so this program's well on its way. Another example, one that I'm particularly pleased with, was my work on the audit committee, both as vice chair and as chair. We started by taking a look at how do we do things differently within the walls of City Hall, and recognizing that there are savings and efficiencies in any organization. So we brought in PwC to be that outsourced internal auditor. They found millions in savings, efficiencies, additional revenues assigned to more appropriate places. But that really wasn't the focus of the overall plan, because we all know that although 2/3 of our operating budget is within the walls of City Hall, 1/3 is within our boards and commissions. And so when we look to those boards and commissions, their $150 million portion of the operating budget pie, their budgets were increasing year over year 4.4%. over a 4-year period, 2009 to 2012. That by definition is not sustainable, right? That's twice the rate of inflation. So what I did was, just as I was transitioning into the chair role of the audit committee, I went to my council colleagues and I said, I want to take this model and I want to invite the boards and commissions to participate in it as well. We started with the library. It was through the 2013 budget process. We said, listen, we're going to fund you differently this year. We're going to give you 2 sources of funding, one that goes to your base and one that's one-time money that effectively will last for 12 months to help you turn the curve towards sustainability. They took us up on the offer. They had a positive experience, and we can see the reduction in their asks year over year. So that's been extended to all of the boards and commissions. The health unit has worked with PwC. The London Housing Commission has worked with PwC. LTC has worked with PwC. A lot of acronyms, I know.
Yeah, but cracking down on boards and commissions, it's easy to get a consensus on that, but you know as well as I do there are incumbents who may be back next term who, as far as I can see, have shown no inclination to wanting to work with you. Well, what can you do?
Yeah, let me just wrap this up, because I do want to say that just a few weeks ago, the London Police Service Board agreed to sign on to this program, and that's a huge win for the community. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, what can I do? Another example, I suppose, would be the work that I do on planning files. And you can look at a number of contentious issues that were Ward 7 specific, the ward that I represent, where I brought council together, where I brought the community together, the developer to the table, as well as the city to fix a problem that was significantly broken. I can point to a number of examples, but the most recent one is the development over on Richmond Street by Masonville Mall. This was a neighborhood's worst case scenario. It was the first and only file that I encountered when I took office in Ward 7, and it was a developer that was having a difficult... It was you could call it 5-bedroom townhouses, stretched right across from Shavian up to the TD, and these townhouses were obviously built for student housing. That 2/3 of the space was living space, or was bedroom space, 1/3 living space, no garages, that sort of thing. And the developer really wasn't trusting the city, wasn't trusting the neighborhood. The neighborhood was angry with council, was angry with the developers, angry with the city, and we've just brought that together, and we started doing that 2 years ago, moving it to a positive resolution that is a win-win-win for the community, because it's something that they can agree to. It's an enhancement of their neighborhood, protects a number of issues that were important to them. A win for the city because it aligns with the London plan, it aligns with the rapid transit plan, and a win for the developer as well, because that developer gets to build something great and larger than the original plan.
I want to just, while we're on the subject of donations, take a minute and address the concerns that are up there about the Kings Mill business and the Kings Mill donation and fundraisers there and all that?
Yeah. Back in August, a group of volunteers offered to organize a fundraiser for the campaign, and I gave them full permission to proceed with the initiative, and they selected Kings Mills as the location. That was back in early August, and well outside of when the second vote occurred, and when we all found out what happened, which is great news for London. This is a game changer for London to move 2,000 students downtown.
Is that $2,400 donation then that combined between the business, the Kings Mill business, the Kings Mill family, is that a mistake, would you say, a misstep to accept that money then after the vote?
One of the things I've been really clear about with my entire team is that we're going to follow the rules, and we're going to follow the rules to the letter. And I said, listen, if people want to participate in this campaign by supporting it financially, make sure that it aligns with the rules, and then that's a donation that can be received. I was asked the question on talk radio a couple of weeks ago whether or not that particular family had supported the campaign. I indicated at the time I'd look into it. I did, and I learned that they had supported the campaign. It was they followed the rules. It was their democratic right to participate in this campaign. And what really concerns me is when we start drawing lines about a municipal councillor. The rules are this, but a candidate for council or a candidate for mayor can only take money from this area or only from this area, and it starts to demonstrate a different kind of bias. I think the safest thing to do is to remove yourself from the process and to follow the rules, and that's what I did.
What would you say to a person who came up to you and said, Matt, tell me why I shouldn't vote for Paul Chang?
Right.
Thinking, hey, the guy's charming and I'm kind of interested in this guy, why shouldn't I vote for him?
Yeah. We've seen over the past 4 years a lot of empty promises just come to a crashing halt. 0% tax increase, 10,000 jobs. As elected officials, we can say anything, but it's our responsibility to say things that are achievable and that are practical. It's about being honest, it's about being transparent, and it's about earning the public's trust. And so at the debate last night I made this point a number of times, that commitments were being made that seemed very counter to one another. No new spending, but commitments to things like hundreds of millions of dollars for overpasses and underpasses. It just doesn't add up, it doesn't balance out, and that's important for Londoners to know. If you take a look at a plan, it needs to be achievable, and the vision that I've presented for our community for the next 4 years and the next 20 years is about building a better community for our children and for our grandchildren. It's practical. It's achievable. So much of it is rooted in studies that already exist and are ready to be executed upon, that are sitting on a shelf. The downtown master plan, the rapid transit plan, our London plan. These things have been developed. They've been vetted. The London plan is in its draft form now, and it's time to take the next step and to execute on these, because if you're standing still, then the community is not moving forward, and that's something that we've seen, quite frankly, over the past 4 years.